Hey everybody, it's Peter, and today we're going to take a close, in-depth look at the Kawasaki Teryx KRX 1000, which we're just going to call the KRX. Although there is a KRX 4, I've also done a video on that, and on the KRX 4, I did the absolute top-of-the-line 2023 model. This one happens to be a 2022 model, but we'll have 2023 models as well that we can review. And I'm standing outside Kawasaki Way, which, where is that? That is outside Jim Gilbert's Power Sports here in Fredericton, New Brunswick. They are the top volume Kawasaki dealer in the country, even though they've just had the Kawasaki line for just a few years. And you talk about commitment to customer service. When you come here to this destination store, Kawasaki Way is their Kawasaki test track, their off-road test track, where if you're buying something like this, you can take it out on the test track and see what it's like yourself. They are an absolutely amazing destination store, and the reason that matters to you if you don't live in this area is because they also give me full access to their full Power Sports line. So when you talk about commitment to customer service, even if you're not going to shop with us, even if you're across the country or across the world, they give you a reason to tune into this channel to see things, because I'm going to have access to the full line. So if I don't answer your question in this video, let me know in the comments below and we'll answer it both in the comments and on future videos, because I can keep coming back to these videos to these vehicles as often as I need to on video to make sure you get the answers you need. Super long introduction, you don't care about that, you care about this vehicle. So let's talk about what this is. Now again, having talked about the KRX 4, personally, I like the concept of the KRX 4. What I don't like is it is a very long extended wheelbase version, and for me, for my type of trail riding here in New Brunswick, it doesn't work as well. This thing is perfect. It's still larger than something like the regular Teryx or Teryx 4. It's a longer, wider, butchier type vehicle. It's big, raised up on the suspension, but it's perfectly fine to fit on the trails that I want to go on. And I kind of equate a vehicle like this to a Porsche. When you think about a Porsche, there's obviously the race cars, the top of the line, maximum power, but most people don't buy the max power Porsches. They buy lower trim levels, including something like an entry level. An entry level Porsche is not all about power, it's about that precise handling, the way the suspension works and all that kind of thing. And this can be thought of very similarly. It is not all about power, although it does have very good power, but it's really about suspension. And when you're driving something like this, you're very rarely at full throttle all the time. And if you are, you should be in races, not in casual riding. But what you do use every single split second of your riding is amazing suspension, and having it tuned well and having it sort of set up amazingly really matters. And that's what this does, even in the base model trim. Now the KRX 4 that we looked at before has the electrically adjustable suspension, which we've done a video on that vehicle. You can see it in the link in the description to this video, and we're going to do more on the technology of that vehicle as well. But this one, set up like it is a really impressive base model. It's not at all a base model side by side, but it is the entry level to this KRX 1000, and it's very good as is. Let's take a deep look inside. We're going to look at what's inside dash. We're going to talk about suspension capabilities and features, all things that make it really great for you. So when you talk about a base model, you have to sort of put yourself in the mind of the manufacturer. They have to keep things off of this model to hit a price point. One thing that I would like to see here is a winch. I just think that for the type of off-roading you're gonna do, this thing can go so far off-road, you're probably gonna find situations where you keep testing it, and you find yourself getting stuck. And a winch would be really helpful. It does not come with the winch on this model. Now that doesn't mean it can't be added as an accessory, and I guess to be fair to Kawasaki, this thing's just not gonna get stuck in most people's traditional travels. You really won't need a winch on any trail I go down, because you can just go in all kinds of water, you can go in big dips, you can go off jumps. I mean, you can go off jumps on this thing, and that's not the situation that I'm gonna get stuck in. So probably it's fine for me, but I feel better having a winch, and I'd like to see one there, but I get why they don't include it. What you do have is these massive tires, these Maxxis Carnivore tires. Let's see the exact size. They are 31 by 10 by 15 in the front. Out back, they are, same brand obviously, of course, they are 31 by 10 by 15 as well. So front and rear beadlock tires, and you just have a really good base there, really aggressive tread. And then we're gonna talk about suspension in just a second, but before we get there, headlights down here. The headlights are actually LED headlights, even on this base model. So you can add accessory light bars to this kind of thing. There's all kinds of people that do that, but you have all the lighting you need right from the start, and it's quality lighting, that bright white lighting, including some daytime running light type ideas. One of the things that you may notice is missing, which really makes no difference to me, is the roof. Now I drive an ATV, so you know, I don't have a roof, I just have a helmet. And you're gonna do the same thing in here. You just have a helmet on, you don't need this, lets all the air through. You can put windshields on, you can enclose this in, you can put the roof on, you can do all those things, but I'm perfectly fine with not paying for those things because, again, this thing's all weatherproof. It's no big deal if it starts getting wet a little bit, and I kind of like the feeling of being fully open. So now let's talk about the suspension. That's really where this thing is just absolutely a monster. All right, first of all, let's just talk travel. You've got over 18 inches of travel here in the front, which is absolutely insane, over 21 inches in the back. We're gonna talk about the back in a second because it's kind of set up a little differently, but this is all traditional stuff, just, you know, maxed out for strength. You've got massive A-arms here, super strong. You've got the piggyback shocks here, which if you don't know what those do, basically a simplistic term is as the shock is compressing and going in and out, it's creating heat, it's creating some friction and that kind of thing. What it does is it takes that heat and separates it, which allows you to have consistent performance from your shock. So you can really hammer over all kinds of bumps and all kinds of dips and all kinds of things, really work that suspension, and you're not gonna lose performance. What a lot of people don't point out is without these piggyback shocks, you will eventually lose some performance. So that's why it says Fox Performance Shocks. They really are high end. Now again, on the KRX 4 that we talked about, you have some electrically adjustable things. You still have all kinds of preload adjustments here. It actually can change ride height just over about an inch as you adjust the preload. And there's like a lot of settings. I'll put it on screen how many settings there are for preload adjustment. So you can really customize it up even though it's not the electronic suspension. But basically in the front, kind of a traditional setup with just insane amounts of travel. Now let's take a look at the rear. There are two components to the rear suspension here. First of all, you've got a just absolutely massive spring and shock right there. Same thing with the piggyback type shocks right there. But the real big difference here is this really long swing arm. And this is kind of where I can sort of see Kawasaki's motorcycle influence in here. You've got the pivot point up by my left hand right up here, which is your hip point on the driver. And that, again, when your body feels balance, it feels it from your hips. When you tell if you're balanced or not, that's kind of where you feel. So putting that suspension point right there and allowing a very long swing arm, a lot like a motorcycle, mounts it up here, swing arm, really lets you hammer over bumps and have that real direct up and down travel instead of just the A-arms. Now we're going to show you the backside as well and show you some things in there. So in addition to having this really long swing arm right there that allows that travel, you also have a very long A-arm type setup here. So again, strong bars, but it really sets it in. It's not short. If it was out here and everything was, if all these pieces were mounted out here, you wouldn't be able to have as much travel. So you have the balance between the strong forces that allow it to go up and down and allow it to take on bumps fast moving forward, and the ability to have a lot of play by mounting everything centrally. So you have a big advantage here. Your center of gravity is very close to the center of the vehicle. You have long arms, all of which are suspension, and it gives you that massive travel, which gives you the massive control that you're gonna need going over higher speed type bumps. As we take a look at the entire setup, again, I know I'm going on about the suspension, but it's really what makes this kind of crazy. If you look at something like a Jeep Wrangler, it's really made for rock crawling, slow speed stuff. There's no reason this can't do slow speed stuff, but a Wrangler can't do high speed stuff because it's got a big solid axle. Here you've got the fully independent suspension with all that travel, everything centralized, and it really allows you to have a lot of fun. Taking a quick look up here, you've got LED lights out back as well, even on this quote base model. And we're gonna show you this cargo bed right now. The cargo bed up here is very, very high, which is fine for what your intended purpose is. Again, this isn't meant to be a minivan where you load things in low on the floor. You want things up and out of the way. It's got little drip drain rails here, so these little holes here connect to, you've got a lip here to keep things in, which of course can be tied down through 4 tie downs, and of course you could use the roll bar. But you do have, if any water gets in, it can come straight out the back, straight out here. So holding gear in, but allowing water out. It holds, I think it's around 350 pounds, 351 pounds. I'll put it on screen there, right around 350 pounds, which again, for what you're using this vehicle with, is a lot of weight. You're not gonna put 300 some odd pounds of weight back here for the type of driving you're gonna be doing, which basically means it's over-engineered to handle what you need it to do, and you've got the ability to take that cargo right here. So we've talked about cargo, now let's talk about people. Over here, you've got nice high doors. I think that matters. A lot of time on this type of thing, you've got really low doors. They're still low enough to give you a good view of everything, but they give you a little bit more protection and they open wide. They're not flimsy, chintzy, fall apart kind of doors either. As I get in here, it is a fairly tall step up, which you would expect, but it's not that bad. My Jeep Wrangler certainly feels like more of a climb in. and this is certainly something I would take to go further than a Jeep Wrangler. Inside here, the seating area, you actually have an armrest built into the door, so you can have your hand kind of resting on the armrest while you're resting on the wheel. Overall, the seat moves forward and back. I can move it a long ways forward, a long ways back. Right now, I've got it kind of in sort of further back position right there, not even fully back. It's a very comfortable seat. It's got a waterproof style material on it, rubbery feel, but it's very comfortable. And the overall driving position is very good. You can see here, I don't know if you can see it, but I'll open the door here. It's got a very stiff sort of pneumatic piston on the tilt steering. So what I find is it comes up quite easily. The dash moves with it, but you do have to sort of muscle it down quite a bit. It's just the way they do things here, but that works very well. We'll talk about the handle here as we get a closer look in here and everything inside. So let's bring the camera closer so you can see sort of what I see here. All right, I'm gonna freehand the camera a little bit. I got a bit of a steady cam, so hopefully that'll help a little bit. But here's that armrest we talk about, that automotive style handle there on the inside. Of course, this one doesn't have the stereo system, which I'm perfectly fine with. I don't need a stereo system out on the trails. I know some of you do, and of course you can get that in various trims. We showed you the KRX 4 has the full sort of TFT type display. This one's still a digital dash, but not the TFT. Your headlights are right here, and that's kind of all you've got. You got spaces to add accessories there as well, and we'll show you in the middle what goes on. So we're gonna go wide angle. Actually, we'll just show you the seats for a second. We talked about that waterproof material. So you've got a grippy, sandpapery, rubbery feeling down here. Then this is still rubbery feeling, but that's where your color is added there. And this one happens to be green. Newer models will be red. And then sort of a textured area here. Everything about these seats are grippy, but they're also supportive. So that's what you want, is you want supportive side to side. You've got support down low side to side, support up high side to side. You do have a headrest there that is set back enough that it sits comfortably with your helmet. And in addition to having the overall support there, you have the grip of the seat, the fabric itself, which isn't a fabric, more of a rubbery type material, that will keep you in place as well. So I really quite like that. Jumping in here, we are holding the camera with the right hand, so we're gonna turn it on with the left hand. And you know what? We're gonna start it up with microphone on and everything else. So, starting it up there, you can hear that I'm raising my voice maybe a little bit, but not a whole lot. You're gonna see some glare because the camera films with one eye. In person, you don't see that because you've got two eyes, so there's really almost no glare at all. It's hard to sort of replicate exactly what your eyes see here. But you can see you've got a tachometer here, it goes all the way around. 11,000 RPM is where it reads. I don't remember off the hand where my red line is, but you can see you've got lots of revving capabilities there. And a couple things I really like here. Temperature here, that's the coolant temperature or something. Don't know which one that is set to right now, but of course that's going up to engine temperature. Fuel gauge down the bottom, 14.4 volts is the battery because it's actually charging right now. You've got your hour meter, 1.1. What do we got? CVT temperature is down on the bottom there, so CVT hasn't really warmed up yet. Large gear indicator, large speedometer, that's what you want. But one little thing I kind of like is we're going to zoom right into it right now. There is your four-wheel drive, two-wheel drive, and what I like about this is it's not like as soon as you put it into four-wheel drive, I can hear it clink in, so I hear the electronic kind of latch in, so it does that. But you'll notice the display doesn't change, and that's because it hasn't fully engaged into four-wheel drive yet until we start moving. So what I like is just because your switch is there, this gives you an actual indication of what's going on. And when you're driving in the mud and in slippery situations, you want to know if it's four-wheel drive or two-wheel drive, not just because you flick the switch, but it's actually engaged in the gear. So simple gauges here, neutral light up top, some warning lights up top, but simple. Again, not the TFT display that we showed in the KRX 4, but really good information there. I'm going to throw it back in two-wheel drive there, and we're going to turn it off for a second here. Coming around the gauges here, again, the steering wheel is kind of nice. Let's just go wide angle for a second so you can kind of see here. Steering wheel is very nice in my hand. It just fits quite well. It's comfortable, thick, the sort of rubbery type coating, so it's grippy, great with gloves or without gloves, whatever you want. And again, a little bit of detail here. I don't know if you can sort of see, there's a little bit of a nub out right there. There's the nub out right here. So all kinds of places to just have that little bit extra support and grip on that very racy style steering wheel. Over here, just some extra storage areas up there. The KRX 4, I believe we had a sort of USB type area up there. This is still sort of that water resistant area though. You've got a gasket here, so even though you don't have a place to plug in your phone right there on this lower trim model, you still have a place where you can set something like that down, and it is a water resistant up high in a gasket kind of area. 12-volt port right there. This is your handle for your passenger. They can hang on, and that's exactly what they'll need to do. There's a lot of adjustability in that as well. Glove box down there. And down here you can add all those accessories that you want to add. If you want to add a winch, if you want to add lights, if you want to add all kinds of things, you've got options to do that. Right now, the only thing you have is low power or high power. That is not your low gear ratio. That is down here. So you can see high, low, neutral, reverse. That's there, but you can set this to a lower power or a higher power. So both, if you're just on certain trails, you want to keep the power a little bit lower, you can do that. Or if you have a younger, newer driver, they can do that down there. I believe I pointed this out as a cup holder in the past. That is a fire extinguisher holder. And of course, looking at the floorboards, lots of drain areas there, but you've also got no need for like rubber mats or anything. You've got good grippiness to the plastic bottom area there. Little cup holders there. There are also cup holders. Let's just spin the camera around. Again, we are on wide angle. Cup holders back there as well. And the overall feeling is very open. I'm going to show you a picture just sort of towards myself right now and sort of show you what I mean. So you can see all around me again, without having that roof. Even if I had a roof, I've got lots of room with a helmet on, that kind of thing. But the feeling is very open. So even though you have a higher side here, it's right there at my shoulder, which I'm going around the corner, it's going to hold me in. I'm not going to fall out going on around quicker corners, which you can do here. A little bit of bugs flying in the air. But visually, sightline wise, this comes down a long ways. You can really see everything. I can look out and see the front wheel here, which I can show you in a second here. But you've got a lot of airy space around you, which is kind of why I like this base model without the roof or anything. It's very open, very good visibility to see in front of you. Because I mentioned you can see the wheel, let me just show you how easy that is. Just tilt my head a little bit over and I can see right to the edge of the wheel, tilt it right out and I can see the whole wheel there. So you've got a very good view from the driver's view. The camera's really showing exactly what I can see just from the driver's view. Even though it looks like I'm off center with the camera, I can easily see that wheel just sitting upright here from the driver's seat. And of course, I'm centered with the driver's seat. Camera doesn't show exactly what my eyes see, but the idea is you can really see everything that you need to see. Now let's talk engine and transmission. From an engine and transmission standpoint, this thing is obviously advertised for the dunes and the sort of, you know, flying around in Arizona and those kind of things. What I like here is in Fredericton, New Brunswick, this is absolutely amazing on the trails. Now, when I ride the trails, a couple things. Like I mentioned, engine transmission, it's centered in the vehicle. So the weight is centered, which means side to side, every which way, you've got everything kind of close in the center. You've got 1000cc, 999cc, so you've got plenty of power to do everything you're gonna wanna do. But you've also got some practical stuff. Up here, you've got a dust guard over top of your air intakes, really high up. So if you're like me, you're gonna go through some water, especially in Fredericton here, in this general area here in New Brunswick. As you go through the water, you're gonna wanna make sure that you've got really high clearance, so you're not sucking in that water. Well, you've got really high clearance. I'm about 6 feet tall and you can see this is really, really tall. Speaking of water, it's starting to rain right now. Fun times. Engine transmission, like I said, CVT, so you don't have to think about switching gears, do anything like that. That's kind of standard for the class, but it works very well. And as you notice when I was running it, it wasn't super, super loud. Now, as you rev it, of course, it makes great noises. It's a lot of fun to have, but it's just all kind of balanced for what you need. And that's really what you've got for the design of this vehicle. Balanced power, tremendous suspension, and a great size. All right, since it's raining, we're gonna leave it right there. So, quick little recap. This thing is absolutely amazing in the dunes. Being the 2-passenger, it can really handle a lot of trails. It's something that can go fast over whoops and bumps and all kinds of things. If you've got potholes and all kinds of rocks like you do here in New Brunswick on the trails, this thing can handle it. It can fly through those kind of scenarios. It's got a good balance of power with tremendous suspension. Again, suspension is what you're gonna use every time, no matter what. It's an absolutely amazing thing. We've got a truck coming in through here, delivering more things to here at Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals, so we're gonna let him make some noise as he goes by. But I just want you to know, if you're looking for a place to buy, here is the destination store, Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals. I wanna thank them for giving me access to their vehicles, and if you have questions in the future, tune in, subscribe to the channel, because we're gonna have a whole lot more about this vehicle and others just like it. Thanks everybody for watching.